Welcome to MTV Bay's Choose or Lose 2014. Unemployment is one of the greatest fears for young people, and South Africa has some of the worst statistics in the world.
70% of the youth in South Africa are unemployed. Globally, South Africa has been ranked the worst in terms of youth unemployment between the ages of 15 and 24. As the DA, what would you do if you were empowered to make sure that the youth were not afraid to have to go into the, looking to the future and trying to get a job? Because at the moment, unemployment is quite a big problem in the country.
All the statistics will tell you that if you've got qualifications, you are much, much, much more likely to be employed. And that's why our policy is to raise the Student Financial Aid Scheme to 16 billion rand, so that no young person who is able to go and benefit from tertiary education is kept out by lack of money. We've costed that, we've done our alternative budget, it is affordable, we take money away from other areas, but we want everybody to be able to study as far as they can possibly go and never have poverty stopping them from doing that.
We want the state to intervene and play a major role in the economy because, as you rightfully say, the current policy, which is market-driven, has not created jobs for our people. The neoliberal policies, including capitalist policies, were never good for Africa. Africa is in this state because of capitalism. So the EFF believes that if a state gets involved in business, it will create jobs because the state will not be driven by the desire to maximize profit. Because the private sector is maximizing profit. A job that must be performed by 6 is actually performed by 3 people. And the money that was supposed to go to these 3 is declared profits.
But I think as well, at the moment we have SAA and Eskom and such companies and SABC who are under the rule of the current government, and that is already failing. So how does the EFF plan to make sure that it is an actual success?
It's not true that the SABC is failing.
Well,
because no, you gave the example of SABC. You're watching TV every day. Movango and Generation and the news. So that is a primary mandate of the SABC. Its mandate is not to make profit. It's to show us those pictures. There's never been a day where we went blank and we couldn't see a television.
I think Julius put it as SABC is a successful company because they are still able to produce and broadcast things every day without any failure. So how would you necessarily categorize SAA and SABC as government subsidies?
Don't forget Eskom.
Oh, and Eskom, yeah.
Well, I think you've answered your own question, Mabote. You've got to compare, especially in areas where government runs some things and the private sector runs other things, what works. For example, ComAir, that runs BA, the airline in South Africa, has no government subsidy whatsoever and turns a tidy profit. SAA gets billions of government subsidy and makes a loss every year. If you look at ETV and SABC, it's exactly the same. And our public broadcaster has swallowed billions. They get bailed out the whole time. They have musical chairs in leadership. And they produce a product which is often woeful. So I think it's time to learn from the international experience. The whole of communism collapsed because of that fallacious view. And state monopolies are always disastrous. Now, I hope maybe that in the 2016 local government election, this is a national election, 2 years' time we have another local government election. Maybe Julius Malema will win a municipality in the Northwest Province or Limpopo or somewhere, and then people can see how he governs. And then they can make up their mind.
I've listened to the policies of the EFF. They are really very young people policies. You can imagine, it's just like me when I was a young fellow. My mother gave me some chocolates and I felt very little. I'll grow up. One day when I grow, I'll buy the whole full bag of chocolates so that I'll eat enough. You know, that's a child thinking. Because you can't eat the whole bag of chocolates, you know. But if you're a child, you think you can. And that's how EFF thinks. It's really youthful thinking with not looking at the implications of the real life that is there. In the first instance, if you nationalize, things. Private companies will run away. You don't have the resources to develop your economy.
So do you think that without international investing, we'll be able to have this promotion of local business? I mean, international investors sort of drive our economy as it is. Will we be able to create a thriving local economy if we do not have buy-in from international investors?
We trade with international investors who are ready to trade with us through our conditions, because they've exploited Africa for a very long time. This is the time for Africa to rise in defense of its beautiful land and its minerals.
So I guess in closing, what I'm asking on behalf of, I guess, all the young people that are here today and the guys that are watching, over the next 5 years, what can we hold you to?
Look, if our government will restore the land into the hands of our people and nationalize the strategic sectors, especially the minerals for beneficiation, in order to industrialize and create jobs and uplift the living conditions of our people. If we are not a government, you can expect fireworks in Parliament. It's not going to be a parliament of sleeping tigers. All those sleeping old-aged people will be kept awake, because we are going to turn that parliament into an activist parliament.
In the next 5 years after the elections, what can we hold the DA to?
Well, you can hold us to being an accountable government where we are in government. You can hold us to being a very effective opposition where we are in opposition, and of exposing corruption and of providing alternatives, and for being a very strong opposition, asking tough questions in the legislatures and in the national parliament, exposing power abuse, defending the institutions of our constitution, so that one day when you look back, you'll have a very, very safe democracy for your children. And the biggest challenges and problems your children will sit with is, what shall I do with my life? Because they'll know that the Constitution will defend their rights and that everyone will be equal before the law. And if that happens, it'll be because you had a good opposition that did not allow power abuse.
Over the next 5 years, what can we personally hold the ANC accountable to? What can we look forward to that you're going to deliver?
Well, of course, people will look at the policies of the ANC, will say, you said this, why didn't you deliver? The job of the ANC is to say, in our policies, we should believe are correct, are supported by the majority of the country. How do we move forward? You will realize that in the last 5 years, there are specific things we brought in. And people, because they're so negative, they did not even realize. There are views about sluggishness of government, it takes time, what happens, you don't know what's happening, they work in silos. Then I established a department to address that. Performance monitoring and evaluating, so that anyone who's in the ANC, working in whatever level, whether in the national, provincial, or local, there must be a method of monitoring the performance and everything. And it has changed the performance of government. People have not seen. If people were honest, they will be saying we can now see how much government is performing.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I trust you guys learned something. Do you know who you're voting for now when you do vote?
Absolutely, I'm sure. I'm sure people know who to vote for.